congregation, you are the experts again, like Nehemiah called the leaders together. We want the leaders first equipped. Okay, remember when you took the Ready Christian assessment? So that's the training that goes along with that. Christian Emergency Network also knows that the church emergency team understands that it's vital to the church that parishioners who have come to expect that it is a safe place when they walk in the door, yet understand that churches are now soft targets. And what do we mean by soft target, Mike? What's a soft target?
Walk in, you can take over the whole thing.
Yeah,
That
revolving door, in and out, yes,
We
right?
don't have locks on the door.
Yeah, and soft target also because so many more of our infrastructure here in the United States have become hardened. In other words, they've put in security measures, but the church largely has not. So in other words, it's a much more vulnerable target for those that would seek to do us harm. Do you believe there's anybody that would seek to do the church harm?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. So then, because we now understand if there's no plan in place and then something happens, what's going to happen to the people that have been coming to the church?
Chaos, they'll flee.
Chaos immediately, and then they will what? Out the back door. And they will not return because this was not a safe place. So it absolutely is incumbent upon us to meet that expectation that when people come in those doors, their children are safe, they are safe, and they know that they're as safe as we can possibly make them. Now, obviously, things can go through the cracks, but it won't be for lack of planning, it won't be for lack of preparation, it won't be for lack of response. Okay? And we can have peace about that. If we don't do this, we cannot have peace. We should not have peace about this. It is the sign of our times. We cannot go thinking it's like 50 years ago or whatever. The days are different. All right? They're different. Okay. So CETs, the church emergency team, understands if someone is in need, they have come to expect that the church will respond different from the rest of the world. Even the people who are not even walking with the Lord expect the church to be different than the way they're walking, right? And so they expect the church to be a lighthouse. They expect the church to be a refuge. Now, if they come in the door and then they don't find that that is there, what do they think? What's their immediate correlation? If they do not find the church there responding to their needs, what is their immediate conclusion that they draw?
Heresy.
Go elsewhere.
Go elsewhere, but what are they seeking?
They believe we're heretics, we're
Hypocrisy.
hypocrisy, hypocrites.
And they look at God that way because you see, we have to realize that as Christian, we are the manifestation of the ambassadors, right? We're the ambassadors. And so if the ambassadors don't bespeak the love of Christ, how are they going to know the love of Christ? They only know because we tell them.
We had a very similar experience to what you're describing when we were looking for where we were going to land for a church. And it was we came here 1 week, then we went someplace else, and then we came back here, and we haven't gone anyplace else since then. But that 1 week when we went someplace else, when we were just looking around, we walked around, literally, we came in the doors, walked around throughout their foyer, throughout their whole lobby. They had a little coffee area and all that for over 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And not one single person said anything to us.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, somebody said something to us. We went in and we sat down. There were conversations from the person in front of us to the people in back of us going right across our heads. Never
Yeah.
once did either of these people or these
Yeah.
people say,
Yeah.
hi, my name's John, or
Yeah.
anything. They didn't say a word to us.
Yeah.
They said, well, this isn't the place we want to be.
Yeah, yeah, and we had
So
a
then you
similar
guys got-
experience as
came
well
out stuff.
here that, and I won't name the church, but yeah, same type of thing, or now we have been gone from where they would have seen us regularly for, or at least kind of regularly for the last few years. Not one has contacted us since we haven't been there. They didn't realize we were there when we went there. They didn't realize we left. I mean, it's like, okay, so that is what we don't want to be, right? We don't want to be that. Okay, write these things down. The church emergency team has 3 main responsibilities: biblical readiness, safety and security, and biblical response. And a church emergency team will take 5 beginning action steps. They'll equip the team, its own team. They'll determine their response area, like we showed on the map, and you saw some of our discussion on that, where you'll actually come about and say, okay, we're going to be responsible for 2 zip codes. This is our response area. That does not mean to say you can't do anything outside of that response area, but if you don't determine a response area, you'll be all over the map, literally, and you will not be able to concentrate your resources and your human and material resources to be able to see the results that you seek and really have an impact. Okay. And determine response area, conduct a capacity assessment, and then plan for safety, security, and emergency response.
Plan for what?
To plan for safety, security, and emergency response. And then the 5th one is preparing for Christian and church response. In other words, you prepare individual Christians and the church as a whole to respond. Okay, so those are the 5 kind of action steps that a church emergency team takes. You equip the team, you determine your response area, you conduct capacity assessments, to see what resources, human and material, you have, and you plan for safety and security, the emergency response, and you prepare Christians and church for response. So when you look at this, you see what we see so glaringly is that those things have been lacking. So in other words, if you have a church emergency team, and so you're looking at the care area, John's care area. So John has a team of care responders that he kind of grooms as his team, right? And Carol works along with John. She's part of the team, right? Kathy has PIO. Hopefully she'll have other people within her team that will also support that. And so you will equip your team. So you'll select your team, you'll equip your team. The same way that I'm equipping you, you will equip them. Same way.
So as we're talking to people in the congregation that we feel might fit that need, is when we're supposed to be building these teams.
Yes. And so we also had a spiritual gifts thing that went along with the
I was wondering
survey.
if you got that.
Yes, and it outlined the first, second, and third kind of the gift mix. Now, the way that the group that did this, I think it was Precept or whoever it was it Nazarene Church Assessment or something? What was it? When they did this, they didn't actually use the ones that Dr. Chick Shaver had identified in biblical, that are biblical. That was a little bit confusing. But basically, you still have some of the main ones here. So, like for example, this whole line here is all administration. So these would be the people that Karen would kind of go to and say, "Oh, these people have identified that that's a strong area for them, right?" And then looking at their secondary gifts, she would know how best to place them. And so take the information here and try to build your teams. So start now praying, and Jeannie's going to keep track here. This is our prayer thing. Praying about who God wants you to have on your team. Now, do you want a weak link? No.
No.
So how is the only way that you can not have a weak link?
Strengthen them.
Pray for the right ones to begin with. or else what's going to... Yeah, and give them the right tools. Otherwise, you're going to end up spending all of your time with the weak link. So pray first and then respond. To ask someone, would you consider doing this? Well, how can you do that unless you know what the role is? So in the material, it gives you all the different roles. It gives you the overview of what it means for each one of the roles in more specifics. See what the page looks like here. It'll outline those roles.
There needs to be some information passed on to the congregation that we are doing this, and we will be contacting them.
And so I had a conversation with Pastor about that, And today, because of what I was going through, we weren't able to chat about that. But what we're going to do, as soon as you start feeling comfortable, and I think tonight is our turning point in that, he would start saying, we're doing Ready Church, and we're looking for people that would be interested in serving in these areas.
Yeah, I was wondering.
And then, so we'll start to solicit and recruit people, in these areas. Now, some people may not feel like they either understand what it is, so you may have to really go and approach them. Read through what your role entails so that you are better equipped to know who to approach. So read through this. This is in the chapter. Okay? All right.
Do we go to the draft?
You can go to the forced draft.
Selective service. They have to
Okay.
register.
And don't forget, you want people that are going to be biblically ready, that are going to take this really seriously, because this is your leadership team. You don't want people that are, just going to take this haphazardly. Better that you have a few and have them strong
That's right.
than have several weak links.
That's right.
Okay. All right. So then what I'd like you to do is I'd like to just zero in on this for the last few minutes. This is so key. We've discussed a little bit about where we feel maybe the church has been lacking some capacity and some strength. But one of the things that the Lord has done that is just quite incredible is that He's already put the very first team that we have to have in place already. I find it so totally amazing, because this whole area of safety and security and emergency response, He's given us 5 people for the team, for the safety and security team already. I find that just so amazing. And the reason why I want you to celebrate that is because all the way along, this is not about where we're not. It's about where God is taking us and how He's moving the ball one yard at a time towards the goal, right? So here's what I want you to see. There's a lot of good touches that are happening with people when they come in the front door. Yes, we could do a better job of assimilating and strengthening leadership and developing skills and, honing in on that and conserving the response, right? And no, we don't have a security plan in place, but what do we have? God has given us, just by His grace, He's already given us 5 security team members that will be working on this very intentionally. These security members for this team, their main thing is to preserve people's lives, to protect property, to assess the risks that this church has, to establish emergency policies, to retain resources. So in other words, we don't want to lose what we have, right? Or be seized, have it seized, right?
Yeah.
Talked about that. They connect with outside agencies at the federal, state, and local level, whether it's your police, fire, first responders. They communicate vital information and vital information that relates to needs. And they oversee the emergency operation plan, the ministry continuity plan, so that if things get really haywire, there's a plan in place. You don't just dust it off right then and there. Everybody knows what they do in order to keep the ministry going. So today, I don't know if any of you heard this. I sure did, because it came really across my desk. Over in Hanford, Washington. Anybody know what happened in Hanford, Washington today? Huh?
Tunnel collapse and nuclear.
The tunnel collapsed at a nuclear center, and there was plutonium that was
Radiation.
dispersed, and so I'm immediately getting this from Washington D.C. Telling me all of the details of this particular thing. I have yet to be convinced. I have to tell you, I am not totally convinced that it did not go airborne. I don't think that we have enough evidence of that yet, even though that's what's been told in the media.
Yeah, that's what the news.
But here's the good news. So I get the information that comes out of the Department of Homeland Security, that comes out of the FBI, that comes out of intelligence and analysis, infrastructure protection, law enforcement, right? I get that information so that I have a tool that will validate what are the specifics on the ground. So you don't have to just rely upon what you hear in the media. And that's what the security team does. They look at that information and then they make a decision based on the best information that you can get at the time. And so that's how they help to glorify the communications then that Kathy is in, because then when she's trying to put out information on communications, she's putting out timely, actionable, accurate information. Not what the media is hyping up, not fake news, but timely, accurate, actionable information. And that's what the security team helps to funnel then to someone like Kathy or the public PIO. Okay. Any questions so far? So for homework, reading chapter 2, write out any questions. Download your role training. Remember this one right here. Download the role training. Read through what your role entails, and start praying about who you might invite to be on your team. Now, Pastor was very, very clear. I asked him for the names of people that he wanted to be the team lead, right? And that's you. But you get to determine who you want on your team. These are people you're working with in order to accomplish the goal of your role. So start praying about that. Next week, I'd like you to be prepared after reading chapter 2 to summarize the role of the church emergency team. That's you. I'd like you to just be able to summarize the role for the group.